Hey guys, welcome back. We're so glad to have you on Ask the Advocate. If we haven't met up, Karen Mayer Cunningham, Special Education Boss, training everyone that sits at the 504 IEP table, navigate and negotiate successful student outcomes. And so we are rounding out April. I counted on my books today. And at this point in the year, I'm like, could I be a swimwear model or do I need to keep advocating? So it looks like I'll be advocating. So it gets a little. So we are ready for your questions. Put your questions in the chat. You just have to put them in there once, and then one of our team members will get them, or they'll refer you to a link that you can reach out to us at advocate at specialeducationacademy.com if you need representation, if you need a records review, if you need a state filing, a federal filing, a mediation, a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. We have all of those things available. All right.
Good evening. Can you please tell us when the next live two-day intensive would be?
Yeah, we have two-day lives this summer in person right outside of Orlando, June 7th and 8th, and then July 19th and 20th. We are very excited, and we want to see you live in person. I haven't done a live in person in almost 2 years. We did one a couple of months ago, but those are my favorite. And then if you can't make it to that, we always have the two-day on demand, and you just we'll have that in the palm of your hand, and you can learn at your own pace.
Fantastic. What are the requirements to become an advocate? I would like to do that.
Yeah, so you have to have a love of kids, a love of learning. You have to be able to work with people that might not have the same view that you do, and you have to learn the federal laws and the state laws that apply to students' disability rights, their civil rights, and their federal rights under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act.
Where would I go to get training?
Oh, I know these people. They're amazing. So you would go to Special Education Academy. We train people nationally. We train school districts, and we're excited to train you. We have the mastermind after the two-day intensive. And then after that, we have VIP for those of you that are already full-time advocates. We have a very small group that we do hourly coaching once a week.
I've heard a lot of great things about having a one-to-one, but I understand it might not be so beneficial. What are your thoughts for or against it?
So it's not whether or not I'm for or against it. In 28 years, I've had every kind of child I can think of, have every kind of setting, from the criminal justice system to psychiatric units to homebound to just about everything in between. The problem with a one-to-one, while it alleviates the need at the moment, it's very hard to measure outcomes and measure growth. So instead of just saying this child needs a one-to-one for 400 instructional minutes a day, I would rather sit down as a committee and talk about his needs, her needs, and then where are those minutes that we can really deliver high level of support? Where can we do it in maybe a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 ratio? And then where could we fade some support? I've never found a kid that needs somebody on their hip all day long, except for in some very rare cases where their safety and the safety of others is in play. And if their safety or the safety of others is in play, then we need to have a really highly supported behavioral unit that addresses those needs with primacy.
Here's a great question. Shouldn't you be a teacher before you become an advocate?
Should I be a teacher before I become an advocate? So let's talk about that. So the special education space is 49 and a half years old. And 4 years ago, we had a little thing called the pandemic. 5 years ago, wow, it's 5 years ago now. And since then, I have been bringing a lot of attention to expectation, requirements, obligations, and duties as it relates to school districts. And so a lot of school districts are doing a great job, and a lot of school districts are knowingly not fulfilling those obligations. When I say knowingly, I'm talking about administration. But let's talk about that. Should you be a teacher before you're allowed to be an advocate? I mean, do you have to be a nurse before you can be a doctor? Do you have to make cars before you can sell cars? Does the superintendent have to be a teacher before they can be superintendents? No. Does the special education director need to be a special education teacher? No. In my school district right now, the executive director of special education has never taught a special ed student and does not hold a special ed certifications. So you should do this before you do that. I think it's around whether or not your perception is whether or not I have compassion. I have tons of compassion, probably 20% of my clients are actual teachers who are being treated by school districts. But I don't need to be a teacher to protect the legal rights of children with disabilities, their civil rights, and their federal requirements. They're two different vocations. I would never be a teacher. Loving kids and being in a group setting is not something that I've ever been drawn to. But I certainly love equipping people on the truth, because what I believe is my mission statement is not just something clever. Is when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. But there's no need to be a teacher before you're an advocate, any more than you have to be a plaintiff before you're a judge.
So there's a two-part question, and I have part two.
Yeah.
And it says, should a general education teacher seek some of the training on their own?
You mean from Special Education Academy? I mean, we find people that, benefit from the training, and we have a superintendent that's part of the academy. We have curriculum directors. We have 504 directors. We have general ed teachers, special education teachers. Obviously, if you're a special ed teacher, you're going to have students that have disabilities in your classroom, whether they're served under a 504 or an IEP, or children that have disabilities have never been identified. So you're only going to benefit from the training.
So if there is a part one, and this is Basil Neville, I didn't see a part one, but we would be interested if it came through. Okay. Ooh, an interesting comment. In Connecticut, there is a bill that they debated today to cap the rate of state-approved schools and will limit the number of children. Interesting. Okay. Who should be communicating program changes to a parent?
No one. That's not something that's communicated. It's something that's considered at an IEP meeting.
Okay. My son is having GI issues, but there are no facilities close by for hygiene in a self-contained medical class. Can this be included in an IEP to have access?
Yeah, so access is not about proximity. We have kiddos that have all kinds of medical needs in public schools, and there's no statute that says, if Miss Thomas has Billy in his room and he's catheterized, or, Miss Modern has a student in her room and she has to go get insulin. There's no statute of how many feet away that has to be. So certainly all children in public schools, their hygiene needs are addressed. So depending on the acuity of the need, it would either go under a PCS, a personal care supplement, or an IHP, an individual health care plan, and it might include both. But we would like to say there's 100 settings in special ed. There aren't. But I have never seen any limitations or parameters about what you're asking.
Everyone needs to get on the same page. So who should be communicating program changes to a campus?
So a program change, I hope I'm answering. So programs exist in school districts, right? So programs move from district to district. If you're considering another setting for a student, that conversation comes after we have the conversation about LRE. The least restrictive environment is not a location, it's a consideration. So we consider the student's unique circumstances, how they're doing on their IEP goals, and we talk about what we did this year. Was that appropriate? Do we need to adjust it? Do we need to fade it? Do we need to increase it? And then based upon that possibility of considering a program, then you would be responsible and have a duty and obligation to talk about a continuum of placements, not just you're going to this program. So I think programs are great. They have great benefits, but they also have, cons, right? Just like we're always looking at LRE, meaningful benefit and harmful effect, and we need to always be considering both of those for any programming.
I know you'll have some great news for this one. Do you advocate in the state of California and Connecticut?
California, Connecticut, Kodiak Islands, everything that starts with C. But we know that Kodiak Islands doesn't start with C. Nobody needs to type in that. I work right here at my desk in the great city of Houston, Texas, but I advocate nationwide. I even have a couple of clients that are out of the country.
How can I ask for my son to get one-on-one speech therapy instead of getting it in the group therapy that he is in right now?
Well, you would have to provide evidence to the committee that based upon one of the areas or multiple areas that he needs services in the 9 areas for speech and language services, that it would only be successful if it was himself and the therapist alone.
Boss, what are my rights with it should be FERPA, I think, violation with a disabled child?
So you're always welcome to file a complaint if you think there's been a FERPA violation. Of course, that's a very big umbrella, so I wouldn't begin to assume in this moment that I know what that is. But you can file in a lot of different ways with that. You could use that and file with OCR. You could use that and file with mediation. You could use that and file directly with a FERPA violation.
Oh, here's part 1. Should the special education teacher be required for providing all the training for their gen ed teachers?
No, that's an obligation of the district. The district is obligated to train its employees, and all teachers and all administrators and all staff members in a district are employees of the district.
I'm not sure about this question. It says, what book, ? Recommend my son getting an IEP in the school district. I need to know my rights.
So here's the thing. The reason that we really recommend the training is, unfortunately, in special ed, you can't afford learn as you go. You can't. What I've learned in the federal law and just in these 2 books, which are just 2 of the ones that we train on, has taken me decades, right? So the federal law, which is this book, I don't imagine you're going to go home and read it in one sitting. The DSM-5, which would take you a very long time to consume. I think a better use of your time is to invest in joining Special Education Academy. And that way you can get answers, and we train in series, and you can get your questions answered weekly. But just to go find a law book, it's sort of like if I wanted to be a realtor, I wouldn't go buy a real estate law book, right? You can, but we have much better ways of acquisition of that knowledge in ways that are readily applicable for the IEP meetings you're going to be sitting in right now. So I would recommend that you join Special Education Academy. There's no commitment, there's no contract. So if you want to stay for a few months or a few years, that's fine. But we have over 300 hours of past trainings archived that you could consume.
And they're delicious.
And low calorie. They're they're high carb, but they're low calorie.
There we go. I live in Ohio. Do you know if there are classes in my state to be an activist?
So there's that's funny that you said that. I am an activist and considering being a lobbyist. So if anybody knows about becoming a lobbyist, put that in the chat. I haven't even told my partners this. I'm always re-blooming something else. So an activist is somebody that is passionate about something with specificity. A lobbyist is somebody that goes and petitions government entities to bring about change around a law. So I think if you are an activist, you are an activist, and you're going to stand up and talk about those things which are important and paramount to you.
2 very similar questions. One from a first-time person here, and then another. What do you do as a general education teacher if you know the minutes are not being met?
So I would go to your leadership, which is your principal, and say, what would you have me do? And then based upon that answer, you will know if you're working someplace integrous. I would never tell you to go and report that because I don't want you to lose your job. I know how this works. I've trained enough teachers and know how ugly school districts that want to be can be to their staff. Like really, really ugly. And so, share it with your leadership. Hopefully your leadership, which is their job, is to manage their employees, will address that and get that rectified. If you have a parent that is involved and you can get them that information, then they could do a good state filing with an amazing advocate and bring about attention to the problem and hopefully get it rectified for all the students.
My son has a speech delay. Can I, as the parent, ask for ASL to be in an IEP, or how can I get that for him?
So ASL, sign language, which is an augmentative communication system, is solely in schools for students that are eligible for deaf and hard of hearing and or deaf blind. And while I understand there's great sign language that brings about benefits. There's no such thing as functional signs. So I do not let my kids that I am their advocate have sign language, any language in their documentation that's not being taught by the school. But I do know that people have some, foundational information around that and are excited about their kids that have speech impairments.
We move states. Is it reasonable to do the triennial, which is due this year, if we're also seeking a non-public school?
The triennials do and the triennials do. Whether you're seeking something or not, we need that information every 3 years so that we can have good information to make decisions on.
Okay. How can the school collect data to prove a child needs more support than 1 on 8? I'm just curious, and to know what behaviors would that look like?
So, and again, that's so broad. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what 1 on 8 is. I don't know what the behaviors are. I don't know what the acuity of the behaviors are. When I'm talking about behavior for a kiddo, and this is really important that you guys know that when I say, if Ms. Thomas says, Billy is upset and has meltdowns during the school day, that is not information that's useful for me. So I'm going to say to Ms. Thomas, when you say during the day, is that once a day? Is that 5 times an hour? Is that every other Thursday? And then I'll let her answer that question. Is that meltdown for 1 minute, 5 minutes, 30 minutes? Do I have to clear the class, right? Is it when something specific happens? Is it only in certain classes? Is it around only certain students? So behavior doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's always a reason for every outcome. And so we need to make sure that we have that information from Ms. Thomas really tightened up in the present levels. And then based upon that information, if she is struggling to help that student be successful in the class, then we would request an FBA, a functional behavior assessment, to look at, what is the function of this outcome? What is the antecedent? What are things that mitigate it? What are things that do not mitigate it? What are things that make it worse? So we can work on teaching him strategies to self-manage his disability in a way that's successful for him and his peers.
Can high school teachers pull out for individualized instruction, or can all services be done in an inclusionary class?
So services are listed. The delivery model is listed on the schedule of services. So we call it the FDL. Say it with me. The FDL. The frequency, the duration, and the location. If you've not captured that on the schedule of services page, as I say often to my trainees, you're not finished.
Are there private schools in Texas that provide IEP services for a child?
No. Private schools do not provide IEPs. They do not provide IEPs. They often provide plans to support students. I will also say, and of course this will make somebody mad, but it's what I do best. I, in 28 years, have never had a child go to private school and the parent get all of the outcomes they were wanting. And here's what I mean by that. Private schools that do serve kids with disabilities usually have great specificity. So we've got some really great schools in Houston. We have the Parish School. We have Briarwood. We have Monarch. They are all really good. They each do something very specific. And when it's that specific, then there's often going to be a deficit in other areas. I had a lovely young man that went to the Monarch School, which is amazing. And at the end of the year, he had lost a year academically. But his behaviors had come to a manageable rate. And so you're never going to find as many educational opportunities that exist in a public school. And I always say we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. Do we always get it right in public school? We do not. But often we do.
My son has a para in the classroom. It's a 1-to-2 para. However, they're changing it to a 1-to-6. How long do I have to collect data if it is not working with the 1-to-6?
So I'm assuming that you're the parent.
Yes.
So parents aren't in the classroom. So then you're accepting the data that the school is providing you. I would first say for my student, we can't talk about the other students, what I would say I assume that you're about to provide us some information. It seems like you're about to provide us some information that supports this change in support. It seems like you're about to provide us some information that supports this change in support, and then let them explain to you what that is. Because, our goal in special ed is to deliver support and then fade it, which is what we all hope for. And so maybe that's the outcome that you're going to have. But I certainly wouldn't let it go more than a grading period.
Hey, boss, have you ever wanted to become an educational diagnostician?
I am an educational diagnostician. I wish. I think I have more diagnostic books on my bookshelf between law books. I love diagnosticians. I love everything about the diagnostic profile.
How do you ask to get sensory needs met for a kid in a public school in California that has high sensory needs?
Move to another state. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Ba-dum-bum. So to have sensory needs met, you first have to identify what is it they're seeking, right? So I would make sure that I did a behavioral assessment, an FBA, along with occupational therapy in sensory. So when you do all three of those in tandem, that's going to give you some information. I don't know that you're necessarily going to get a child's sensory needs met, but we can certainly address them.
What do you think about this? My district that I work in, I live in Michigan, will send students home who are on IEPs and 504s home due to their behavior.
I think that's why my friend has a Facebook group called the Michigan Department of No Education. Michigan, you got a lot of work to do in the area of special education. And I'll just leave it at that. We don't send kids home. If you are sending a child home, that means you're not able to provide them FAPE. And so I would ask for a meeting to look at consideration for out-of-district placement at the expense of the district.
I am an IA, I believe instructional assistant, with not enough training. What do I do?
So we would love to train you. Special Education Academy is open for everybody. We're an amazing community of moms and dads and grandmas and aunts and SLPs and teachers and retired teachers and administrators, and we all support each other and give each other feedback, and it's a great community to be the best special education advocate that you can for a child, however you sit at the IEP table. So join us. You just go to specialeducationacademy.com and join Special Education Academy.
The principal is expecting a mom to come up with a plan for missed instruction time related to medical missed education days. Is this okay?
I would ask what day the mom picks up her paycheck from the district. Is it Thursdays or Fridays? So the mother doesn't provide FAPE. The mother's not the teacher. The district has an obligation to figure out what is appropriate and purposeful for a student that's greatly challenged by their medical needs and missing days.
Our school is trying to list direct instructions to be provided by a licensed teacher, not a SPED teacher. Is that okay?
We can list that it's, the special ed minutes are being delivered by a balloon. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change your obligation. It's special education service minutes. We don't list general ed service minutes. Those are assumptive because every student is a general ed student. What I think is disgusting is that when school districts change the language and then lie to their own staff. You're not lying to me. You'll never lie to me. You're never going to lie to me. I know what the law is and the obligation. All you're doing is putting principals and their licensure at risk. And let me say this. We are going to begin to file on principals, LEA representatives who knowingly look and manipulate and lead IEP teams in the wrong legal direction, knowing what they're doing is non-compliant. And so if the LEA rep feels comfortable doing that and putting their license in play, we'll see about that outcome.
Does every school district offer home hospital care?
So there's no such thing as home hospital. Home is home. Hospital is hospital. So there's homebound. So there's no such thing as home hospital. Home is home. Hospital is hospital. So there's homebound. And then there are kids that are in the hospital. They're two different things. But yes, both of those are on the continuum of placement decisions, of course.
My son recently graduated. Are there any grants for 504 kids that you know of?
So 504 has zero funding. So I'm not sure what you mean by grants. There is no funding that goes to school districts or businesses or colleges or churches or airports or Target for not violating somebody's 504 rights. But there's no funding that goes out with it. There's funding that goes with IDEA, the Individual Disabilities Education Act.
Georgia special education teacher here. I have my first MDR this week. What should I expect? How do I prepare?
Show me the data. And so the data, when you're looking at a manifestation determination resolution meeting, is we look at the child's circumstances. Do not solely go in there based upon his known eligibilities or even his known medical conditions. So what's going on at home? Does he go to therapies? Does he take medicine? What is the medicine for? Is he in counseling? Has he had psychiatric needs that have been addressed and delivered outside of the instructional day? So we certainly want to be right about an MDR. I've had kids that I do MDRs and their behavior was not a manifestation of their disability. I had a little boy that had specific learning disabilities and he made pot brownies. That's not a characteristic of reading fluency, not even in Georgia. So his behavior was not a manifestation of his disability. But we have to look at a student's disability. It's not did this happen before and he's repeated it, but is it likely that this behavior was tied to a characteristic of his eligibility? And so we have to be honest and not abrupt at that decision. Number two, should the district decide and or the parent that this in fact was not a manifestation of his disability and we are going to consider out of district placement, DAEP, district alternative education placement. Remember, for all of that time that you put him out of district, you still are obligated to implement how much of the IEP? Say it with me. The whole thing. HO. The whole thing. Is that what we say in Georgia? Is that what we say in the whole thing?
Yeah. Yes. And this one is perfectly timed. Is it right not to work on the student's goals to focus on state assessments?
I'm sorry, what? Did you say state assessment? I'm sorry, I just got a little sick to my stomach.
I did.
Who cares about the state assessment? No, nobody. Nobody except for the bazillionaires from the state assessment makers. So you better be implementing that IEP with fidelity all 36 instructional weeks of the year.
If my daughter was let go down the WC, I'm thinking wheelchair ramp, is that gross negligence?
It's negligence for sure.
The school suggested vague accommodations on a 504 plan to allow for wiggle room. Is this right? Should I allow for wiggle room?
Yeah, I mean, if you have to, I have a grandchild and he told me the other day, he said, Gigi, I try to be good at school, but sometimes I just got to get up and move around. So, I mean, if we need a child to have time to get up and move around and get some proprioceptive input, and if that's helpful for him, that certainly can be an accommodation that he has that the other students don't.
My son has CP. He has a hard time meeting academic goals. Can I request after-school tutoring?
I mean, I don't ask for after-school anything for a child with a disability. They are already at a disadvantage. I don't find that more school mitigates that. I would ask for more appropriate goals instead of making him work longer to achieve them.
It can be hard as a SPED teacher. We're in the line of fire, but we make no decisions. I appreciate all that you do for us.
Oh, thank you. I love SPED teachers. They changed my life. They changed my son's life, and I'm forever grateful for all that you do. Somebody asked, what are your feelings on state or schools for children that are visually impaired? So I live in the great state of Texas, and we have the best state school for the blind and visually impaired, Texas State School, TSBVI. And so I think they are amazing assets. I want to make sure as school districts that we don't do the dump and run, that we don't not educate students with a visual impairment. in their school setting because it's easier to send to the state school. I do see that happen sometime. I won't tell you where, Indiana. And I can't stand that. So we have an obligation to educate students with disabilities to the maximum extent possible with their non-disabled peers. But we have some amazing state schools.
Oh, I love when you answer this one. The school is fighting me against an assistive technology because they don't have a device to use. What do I do?
Oh, good news, sweetie. You don't need a device to use. The law says, the Assistive Technology Act of 1998 says that the device, even if acquired off the shelf, meaning you just get into that football Suburban and you drive across the street to Best Buy and you purchase one. So you getting one is not an issue. So we would ask for an assistive technology evaluation in written expression or an assistive technology evaluation in communication. They're not up for conversation. It's an obligation that we do that.
What's the legal definition of extended time? Is it 1 hour, 1 day, 1 month?
Whatever you say it is. It could be 15 minutes. So when it says extended time, you just need to make sure that accommodations have pristine specificity so that when Rachel picks it up and Cindy picks it up and Travis picks it up, they are all going to do the exact same thing. So when I'm in a meeting, it says extended time. I'm like, is just what you said. Is it 10 minutes? Is it a day? And this lovely special education director in Louisiana, who I miss, she retired. She said they get the whole semester. So if you need extended time, you might want to think about moving to Louisiana.
Do I have to have an ARD to have my son move back to his zone school?
I don't know why they're not in their zone school. If they're not in their zone school because you have a transfer, then you just revoke the benefit of the transfer and go back to your home school.
Should a 504 be used for feeding issues? The child does not eat lunch when the other students do and has no areas of delay.
Okay, so I'm not sure why they don't eat lunch. So do they eat lunch because you need to do a dysphagia evaluation? So we can provide support for anything that happens during the instructional day. So if you need support around eating, you can certainly do that in a 504 plan. There's a reason for that outcome. Remember, there's a reason for every outcome. So I would hate to just be putting a Band-Aid on that. You could always do a dysphagia evaluation to see if he has eating problems. And then you could write IEP goals around that.
Wait, did you say you're coming to Florida?
I'm coming to Florida. I love Florida. I'm in Florida a lot. I'll be training live in person. Selfies are no charge. June 7th and 8th, and then July 19th and 20th. It'll be 2-day lives, and I haven't had them in a very long time, so we're very excited about that. So June 7th and 8th, or July 19th and 20th, just outside of Orlando.
Can a school choose to follow a 504 plan?
No, you can't choose to deny. You could choose to deny a child their civil rights. We won't be doing that if I'm in the meeting. I had a proposed IEP goal today. Are you ready for this? That the student would identify one of her accommodations and talk about while she needs it. What? I said, no, we're not going to have a goal around her describing her civil rights. The attorney goes, we agree, Miss Cunningham. Okay, good. What the Hello Kitty are you talking about? How about the adults describe it? How about that? How about that? And then I will measure your progress. Oh my gosh, can I just tell you something else? So I have a teacher who I'm going to give a love lesson to later this week. The student has hard copy of notes at the beginning of instruction. So the teacher doesn't like it, so she gives her the hard copy of notes and makes the student turn them over. 2 words. I don't think so. What is wrong with people? Like, what is wrong with you that you like kids to struggle? Good news is I have several days to work on my inside voice.
That would be like putting an egg roll in front of me and saying, don't eat it.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. How do you ask for an IEP to open back up after being told no every single year.
So it sounds like you're asking for an IEP. So you don't ask for the IEP to be opened back up. You ask for new testing. So you ask for a full evaluation in all 8 areas. Areas of suspected disability are learning, attention, behavior, communicative. We look forward to coming in and signing notice and consent.
Why do schools not offer an after-school program for students with an IEP?
Because they are obligated to deliver instruction during the instructional day. I mean, you could say, why don't they have a program during the summer? Why don't they have a program during Christmas break? Somebody has to fund that, staff it. So, teachers deserve their weekends and holidays and nights as well.
Is an SLP able to write a math accommodation for testing for a SLI only student?
So if they're a speech-only student, the speech pathologist is the lead in having the IEP meeting, but we do that together. She's not the only one writing the document. That was tricky. That was a lot of letters in there. So late in the day.
Is a public school a good setting for a visually impaired student? There's only one in the county.
It could be. Schools are run by humans, and humans like you and like me are flawed. And so when I'm thinking about a child that has a sensory disability, right? Vision, deaf and hard of hearing, deaf, blind, I'm certainly going to go first to the public school because they have requirements to fulfill the obligation of an IEP. They have requirements to fill the obligation of the expanded core curriculum.
If my child has outbursts, they want him to go to the behavioral unit. He doesn't have an FBA, but has a BIP. Thoughts?
Well, you couldn't have a BIP unless you had an FBA. So again, tell me about his outbursts. Are they 10 times an hour? Are they twice a week? When do they occur? Why do you think they occur? What are the other steps that we can do? And, often, another setting is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes another setting is where the child can focus, and there are people that are more specialized in behavior. I can tell you behavior is its own thing. I don't know how to say it better, but people that are behavioral professionals, they are amazing. And you either get behavior or you don't. And so I would rather my child be around professionals that understood behavior than people that believe his behavior is a choice.
What is a BIP? I hear it being said. I don't know what it is.
It's a behavior intervention plan. So it is a plan above what the general ed student could solely do by themselves.
What is the job of a BID? It's in California.
I don't know. That's where you offer amount of money to purchase something. It's a bid, but I'll be here all night. I don't know. I mean, we are acronym dizzy in the educational world, so I wouldn't know what a BID is.
Okay. If I reject an IEP, how long do they have to make for the new meeting?
So it's not about did you reject an IEP. You've ended in disagreement, so they have to offer you a reconvene, which is usually within 10 business days or an agreed upon time by both parties.
Oh, a reconvene. Never knew that.
I mean, I don't know if they do that in Florida, but, it's an option. Following the law part is an option.
I'm a new teacher. Do I have to document SDL services?
SDL. So I know what UDL is, Universal Design. SDI, especially Design Instruction. I'm not what SDL is.
I wonder if it's SLD instead. Maybe Paloma will let us know.
Somebody said, am I from Houston, Texas? I live in Houston, Texas.
Okay. How many times has a district agreed to pay for an out of placement due to failing to implement an IEP?
Probably never. Because if you fail to do the IEP, then you could just not fail to do the IEP and you could implement it. So out of district placement is because the acuity of the child's needs no longer can be served in public school, right? I have a student right now that we're looking at out of state placement, out of district. She is in psychiatric care right now. The school has limitations. They are not a hospital. They are not psychiatrists. They do not have hours of counseling. They are a public school.
And here's our last one.
Somebody said, hold on. The Grateful Gigi, which I'm a Gigi, would like me to come to Arkansas to her classroom for one day. It would be, I probably wouldn't make it the whole day, but we'd have some fun. The Grateful Gigi. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
You'd be a great show and tell.
Well, there'd be some telling. Oh, look at these two. Wow. It's time.
Okay. So the last one is there such a thing as reassessing if we are denied for a state school for the disabled by 4 points?
Those are two totally different things. Try to break the question apart.
Is there such thing as reassessing for if we were denied by the state school for the disabled?
So whether or not you were denied by the state school does not change your obligation to reassess.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you need our help, just email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. Somebody said I should come to Theo's career day. Oh, I bet that would be a lot of fun in Denton. Yes. All right, well, we love you guys. If you need something, let us know. Remember, we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. And we'll see you guys in the next training.